Lost in the wasteland, the wind howled across the empty land, carrying dust and ash that stung the eyes and burned the throat. The world was broken, its skies heavy with smoke, its ground cracked like old bones. Nothing lived here except shadows. And silence in the middle of this wasteland walked an alien mother. Her skin, once bright with the colors of her people, was now pale and dry. She stumbled forward, carrying a small child wrapped in torn cloth against her chest. Her legs shook, and every step felt heavier than the last. The child coughed weakly, a sound so soft it was almost swallowed by the wind. His small hand clutched at her collar. His eyes, once full of light, now looked dull and half-closed. The mother pressed her lips against his forehead, whispering, "Hold on. Little one, we are not done yet. You must stay with me. You must live." But inside, her heart was breaking. She had no food left, no water, and no strength. The cities of her people had burned long ago. Their enemies had swept across the land with fire and death. She had run for weeks, hiding, begging the stars for a miracle. The wastelands stretched endlessly. Sand and stone, dust and smoke. The sun above was weak, a red circle behind thick gray clouds. Time itself felt lost here. She did not know if it was morning or evening, only that each moment dragged her closer to the end. Her body cried for rest, but she forced herself onward. Each time her knees gave way, she pushed up again, for her child. Always for him, she remembered. The night he was born, his first cry. His father's smile, memories that now cut like knives. His father was gone, taken by war. By the same merciless hands that left this world in ruins. Suddenly, her child stirred and whispered something. His voice was dry and broken. "Mama, water." Her throat tightened. She wanted to lie, to tell him water was near, but her lips refused. All she could do was hold him tighter and keep walking. The truth was cruel. She had nothing left to give. Then, in the distance, she saw shapes, at first. She thought they were mirages, tricks of the dust. Dark figures moving against the horizon, metallic shapes glinting faintly. Her heart raced. Were they soldiers of the enemy? Raiders who hunted survivors for sport? She froze, fear pressing on her chest. If they were raiders, it was the end. She had no strength to fight. She could only pray they would not harm her child. The figures grew clearer as they moved closer. They were tall, covered in strange armor that shimmered in the fading light. Their steps were heavy, and they moved in formation, not like scavengers, but like warriors. The mother's breath quickened. She had heard stories of these beings, whispered in fear. By her people, creatures from the stars, ruthless and powerful. They were called humans. Her people said they were monsters, killers who invaded worlds. But now, standing at death's door, she wondered, could these figures be them? And if so, what would they do to her and her child? The child whimpered again, pressing his face into her chest. The mother tightened her grip on him. She wanted to run, to hide. But her legs refused. She was too weak. The armored figures stopped. A short distance away, they spoke in deep voices. Words she did not understand. One of them raised a hand, and a light beam scanned over her body. She shielded her child with her arms, waiting for pain, for the end. But nothing came. Instead, one of the figures stepped forward and removed his helmet. His face was strange, different from her people, but his eyes held something unexpected. Not hatred, not cruelty, but concern. He looked at her child and then at her. His lips moved, speaking in his unknown language. His tone was calm, steady, almost gentle. The mother's chest tightened. She did not trust him, could not trust him, yet for the first time in weeks. She felt a spark of something she had almost forgotten: hope. Her body swayed, the last of her strength leaving her. She fell to her knees, still holding her child close. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was the human soldier kneeling down. reaching out not with a weapon, but with open hands. The wasteland echoed with silence once more, but for the alien mother and her child. Their journey of despair had just collided with something new, something unexpected. Humanity had arrived. The last breath, the alien mother's body hit the ground with a dull thud. Dust rising around her, her child gave a weak cry. Struggling in her arms, she tried to whisper his name. But her lips barely moved. Her world faded in and out, every sound muffled, every breath painful through the blur. She saw the armored figures moving closer. Their boots sank into the cracked earth, one step after another. The air around them shimmered with light from strange devices on their suits. The mother's instinct screamed to protect her child, yet her arms had no strength left. She could only curl around him like a broken shield. One of the figures knelt. Beside her, his gloved hands reached out and she flinched, expecting pain instead. His touch was careful, steady. He slid the child gently from her arms. The little boy whimpered, coughing, but the figure held him as though he was fragile glass. The mother tried to rise, to pull her child back, but her limbs refused to obey. Her vision blurred again. She heard the strangers speaking in sharp, clipped voices. Words she did not understand, but their tones were not cruel. They carried urgency, even worry. Another figure placed a small device against her chest. It hummed softly, sending warmth through her failing body. Her breathing eased slightly, enough to drag air back into her lungs. She coughed hard, her eyes watering, her gaze fixed on her son, who now lay in the arms of the first human. The soldier removed one side of his helmet, revealing his face. His skin was strange, his jaw sharp. But his eyes were steady. He whispered something to the boy, words she could not grasp, yet his voice was soft, as if speaking to a frightened child. The boy, barely conscious, reached out with a trembling hand. The human shifted him gently, pressing something small against his lips, a straw connected to a pouch, clear liquid glistening. The boy sipped weakly, his throat moving. Water. The mother's heart clenched. Real, clean water. She had begged the skies for a drop, and now strangers poured it freely. Tears burned her eyes. She whispered hoarsely, "Don't hurt him." The soldier's gaze flicked toward her. His face softened. And though she could not understand his language, she understood his eyes. They promised safety, not harm. Her body gave another violent shake. Her chest heaved, and she knew she could not hold on much longer. She wanted to scream at them to save her child, not her. If only one life could be carried from this wasteland, let it be his. The humans moved quickly now. One set down a strange container beside her, pressing buttons that made it expand with a hiss. A capsule unfolded, lined with glowing panels. They lifted her with care, sliding her into it. The moment her body touched the inside, warmth spread through her veins. Lights flickered. Machines hummed. Her pain dulled, but her strength remained thin. Like smoke ready to vanish in the wind, she turned her head with effort. Her son was lying in another capsule now, smaller, his chest rising more evenly, his tiny face no longer twisted. In pain, his lips held the faintest trace of moisture. The mother's vision blurred with tears. She wanted to reach for him, to hold his hand one last time, but the capsule sealed with a hiss. A transparent barrier closed her in, separating her from the world outside. Darkness pressed at the edges of her sight, but she fought it. She did not want to close her eyes, not yet. What if this was a trick? What if they were only keeping her alive for their own plans? What if they took her child away forever? Her heart pounded, torn between terror and fragile hope. The humans lifted the capsules onto a platform. A rumble shook the air, and she realized a massive ship had landed behind them. Dust and smoke swirled, lights glowing like stars across its surface. The last strength in her body forced one thought into her mind. If I die now, At least he lives. Her eyelids grew heavier. Her breathing slowed as the humans carried her toward their ship. Her heart whispered her final prayer, not to her gods, but to these strangers of iron and light. Please. Save him then. Silence. Her chest rose one last time and stilled. The machines inside her capsule beeped rapidly, alarms flashing red. The humans shouted, their voices sharp. The soldier who had carried her child pressed his hand against the glass of her pod, his eyes burning with determination. They would not let her go, not yet, for the alien mother. Death had come to claim her, but humanity refused to let it win. Between life and death, the alien mother drifted in a strange place between darkness and light. Her body felt weightless, as if she floated in a river with no beginning and no end. She heard faint echoes, machines beeping, voices speaking in a language she did not know. Sometimes she thought she felt warmth on her skin. Other times, only cold silence. Then, slowly, her eyes opened. At first, everything was blurred. White. Light stung her vision. Her lungs pulled in air, rich and clean. Unlike the dusty wasteland outside, she gasped and tried to sit up. But something soft pressed against her chest, keeping her still. She turned her head with effort. The room around her was not made of stone or dirt. It was metal, smooth and shining, filled with blinking lights and humming machines. Strange panels glowed softly on the walls above her. Thin tubes dripped glowing liquid into her arm. Her heart raced. Fear struck her chest like a blade. She remembered the wasteland, the armored figures, the human faces. She had fallen unconscious had they taken her child. Where was he? Her eyes darted wildly until she saw a small shape lying in a clear pod across the room. It was her son. His chest rose and fell steadily. A faint glow covered his small body, wrapping him in warmth. His face looked peaceful, not twisted with hunger or pain. The mother's eyes filled with tears. Relief washed over her. He was alive, still alive. Before she could move, a sound startled her. A door hissed open, and one of the humans entered. He was tall, his suit gone now, wearing simple, dark clothes. His face was uncovered. His jaw was firm, his hair short. His eyes, though strange, were steady and calm. He carried a small object in his hand that glowed with light. Seeing her awake, he spoke softly in his own language. The words were meaningless to her. But the tone was gentle, not harsh. The mother pushed herself up, despite the weakness in her arms. She pressed a hand against the glass of her son's pod and whispered, "Stay with me, my child. Don't let them take you." The human noticed her trembling. He raised his hand slowly, palms open. Showing he carried no weapon, he spoke again, pointing first to her child, then to her, his voice steady, almost reassuring. She narrowed her eyes, suspicion filling her heart. Her people had told stories of humans, conquerors, destroyers, thieves of worlds. Yet here was one, looking at her child, not with hunger or cruelty, but with care. Another human entered. This one smaller, with softer features and eyes that seemed kind. She wore a long coat, with tools hanging from her belt. She touched the glowing pod gently, checking the child's vitals. The mother tensed, ready to throw herself forward if needed. The woman looked at her, and then gave a small smile. She pressed a button and a screen lit up, showing symbols and pictures. She pointed at the child's image on the screen, then placed her hand on her own chest, as if to say, "Safe." The alien mother stared, her breath shaky. Could it be true? Was her child safe here? Still, her mind whispered doubts. Perhaps this was only a trick. Perhaps they healed him, only to use him later. Her people's voices echoed in her memory. Ever trust humans. Her body trembled. Her instincts screamed to protect her child, but her heart hesitated for the first time in her life. She saw humans act with mercy. The man placed a small bottle on the table beside her. Clear liquid inside. He pointed to it, then to his mouth. Then he gently slid it toward her. His eyes never leaving hers. Her throat burned with thirst. Her lips cracked, but fear chained her hand. What if it was poison? What if it was a trap? Yet her son lay safe in their care, breathing steadily. If they wanted harm, wouldn't they have done it already? With a trembling hand, she reached out. Her fingers closed around the bottle. She lifted it slowly and brought it to her lips. The liquid touched her tongue, cold and clean. Her eyes widened. It was water, pure and fresh. Tears slid down her face as she drank. Her chest filled with something she had not felt in weeks. Not fear, not despair, but hope. The humans exchanged a glance, their faces softening. They spoke again in low tones. As if relieved, the mother lowered the bottle. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Why? Why help us?" Though she knew they could not understand, the man tilted his head, confusion flickering in his eyes. But then he simply placed a hand over his chest and bowed his head slightly. His gesture spoke more than words. The mother leaned back, clutching the bottle to her chest. Her heart remained torn. One side filled with suspicion, the other with gratitude. She looked at her child's peaceful face. Then at the humans who had saved them between life and death. She realized. She stood at the edge of something new, and though fear still gripped her, she could not deny the truth. These humans had given her and her son another chance to live. The gift of hope. The alien mother lay in silence, her body weak, but her mind restless. The hum of the machines around her was steady, almost calming, yet her heart could not find peace. Every sound of footsteps outside the door made her tense. Every time the humans looked at her, she wondered if their kindness was real or just a mask. Before the cruelty began, her son's pod opened with a soft hiss. The boy stirred, his small eyes blinking against the light. He let out a soft cry, his voice no longer dry and broken. The mother rushed forward, stumbling on her weak legs, and pressed her hand to his cheek through the warm glow of the chamber. The child smiled faintly, and the mother's heart nearly broke. For days she had seen nothing but pain on his face. Now, here, in this strange place among strangers, he looked at peace. The door hissed again. Two humans entered, carrying trays of strange containers. One was the tall soldier with sharp eyes, the other, the woman in the coat, the healer. The mother's body stiffened. She placed herself between the humans and her child, her arms spread wide. The soldier raised his hand slowly, showing no weapons. He set the tray down and stepped back. The healer woman moved carefully, her eyes soft. She lifted one container and opened it, revealing something steaming inside. The smell drifted through the room, warm, rich, nothing like the dry dust of the wasteland. The mother's stomach twisted painfully, reminding her how empty she was, but she kept her glare fixed on them. She thought, food can be poisoned, a trap can be sweet. The healer seemed to understand her fear. She scooped a spoonful of the food and placed it in her own mouth first, chewing slowly. Then she smiled and pointed at the mother, offering the container. The mother froze. Her body screamed for her to take it, to eat, but her mind whispered danger. She glanced at her child, his thin arms, his fragile frame. The soldier noticed her hesitation. He stepped forward, pulling something from his pocket. It was small, round, and brightly colored. He crouched near the boy's pod, opening his palm to show it. It was not food. It was a toy. A tiny ball that glowed faintly. The boy blinked, his eyes focusing on the object. His small hand reached out weakly, pressing against the glass. A soft sound escaped his lips, half a laugh, half a gasp. The mother's chest tightened. She had not heard that sound from him in so long. Her suspicion wavered, slowly, with shaking hands. She accepted the container from the healer. She lifted the spoon to her lips. Her body trembled as the taste touched her tongue. Warm, soft, full of life. Her eyes widened. Tears filled them. It was real food, not poison. The humans exchanged small smiles, but said nothing. They simply watched as she took another bite, then another. Hunger took over, and she ate quickly. Her son stirred again, watching her, his tiny lips forming the word, Mama. The soldier tapped something on the pod's side, and the glow around it lessened. The barrier shifted, opening slightly. The mother panicked, thinking they were taking him, but instead, the healer lifted the boy gently and placed him into her arms. The boy leaned against her chest, breathing softly. His little hands clutched her torn clothes. The mother buried her face in his hair, whispering thanks in her own tongue. When she looked up, the soldier was still there, holding the glowing toy. He rolled it gently across the floor toward the boy. The child's tired eyes followed it, and he reached out. His fingers touched it, and a tiny smile spread across his lips. The mother stared, confusion mixing with relief. Why would enemies give her food, water, warmth? Why would they give her child a toy instead of a chain? But the questions had no answers, only the truth of what she saw. Her son safe, breathing, even smiling. That night, as the ship rumbled through the stars, the mother sat awake beside her. Sleeping child, she kept her eyes on the door, still afraid, still doubting. But inside her chest, a fragile spark had begun to grow. Hope, she whispered softly, as if testing the word. Maybe. Maybe they mean no harm. Her son stirred in his sleep. Clutching the glowing toy close to his chest, the mother leaned against the pod, her body finally relaxing, though her heart remained cautious for the first time since the war destroyed her world. She thought of a future beyond running, beyond fear, a future where survival was possible, a future where humans, once feared as monsters, had become their only light. The child smiled. The alien mother awoke to the soft hum of engines. The ship's walls glowed with faint light, and the air smelled clean. She turned to look at her son, still curled beside her. His small chest rose and fell steadily. The glowing toy he had been given by the humans lay near his hand, for the first time in weeks. He did not wake coughing or crying. Instead, his lips curved into something she thought she might never see again. A smile. It was small, faint, but real. Her heart squeezed. Tears stung her eyes. She brushed his cheek gently, whispering, "You still know how to smile." Even after everything, before she could sink into her thoughts, the door hissed open. Two humans entered, the soldier and the healer woman. They carried new supplies. Metal boxes that clicked open to reveal fresh clothes, soft blankets, and more food. The mother's body tensed. As always, she shifted her son closer. But her boy's eyes lit up at the sight of them. He looked at the soldier and whispered weakly, "Ball," pointing toward the glowing toy. The soldier crouched, picking it up. He rolled it gently toward the boy. The child let out a soft laugh, reaching for it. The sound was so pure, so fragile, that even the soldier's face softened with a small smile. The mother froze. Her people had called humans monsters, destroyers of worlds. But here was her child. Laughing because of them, the healer approached slowly, holding a bowl of warm broth. She gestured toward the boy, then to his lips. The mother's suspicion rose. But before she could stop it, the boy reached out. His tiny hands clutched the spoon eagerly. The healer let him taste it, and his eyes widened. He nodded, taking another. For the first time since the wasteland, he ate without crying, without choking. The mother's chest felt heavy. She wanted to be happy, but a storm of fear battled inside her. What if they are only pretending? What if they are fattening him before taking him away? The soldier noticed her unease. He knelt before her, his eyes locked on hers. His hand rested on his chest again, the same gesture as before. He spoke a word slowly, repeating it until she recognized the meaning. Safe, the mother stared at him, Her lips trembled. Her heart wanted to believe. But her mind held chains of old fear. Later, when the boy had fallen asleep, wrapped in a blanket, the mother overheard the humans speaking to each other in their strange tongue. Their voices were serious. She could not understand. But she caught one word repeated many times. Raiders. Her blood ran cold. Raiders had destroyed her home, taken her husband, burned her people. Could it be they were near again? She looked at her son, peaceful for once. His small fingers curled around the glowing ball. His smile lingered even in sleep. For that smile, she would fight. She would run, she would do anything. The next day, more humans visited. Some were tall and strong, others smaller. Some carried weapons. But none pointed them at her. Instead, they offered more supplies, water, fruit, cloth to clean her wounds. Her son grew more curious with each visit. His laughter echoed softly whenever the soldier played with him. Rolling the ball or showing him flashing lights on his wrist device, the mother watched. Torn between fear and wonder, her boy trusted them without question, his innocence unscarred by the war that had broken her. That night, she lay awake while her son slept. The ship shook faintly, as if changing course. She crept closer to the door. Pressing her ear against it, voices outside spoke quickly, tense. She caught the word again, raiders, louder this time, urgent. Her heart pounded. Had they been followed? Were the raiders coming to finish what they started? If so, the humans had put themselves in danger by helping her and her child. She returned to her son, clutching him tightly. His small face pressed into her chest. She whispered, "I will never let them take you. Not again." The soldier entered moments later. His face serious, he looked at her, then at the boy. His eyes softened again, but his hand rested on his weapon this time. He pointed to the ceiling, then to the horizon on a small screen that flickered with red dots. The meaning was clear. Danger was coming. The boy stirred, blinking up at the soldier. His smile returned, small but bright. He lifted the glowing toy and held it toward him. The soldier crouched, taking it gently, rolling it back with care, even in that moment of rising danger. He made time for the child. The mother stared, stunned. Her fear battled with something stronger. For the first time, she thought, maybe they are not monsters after all. But outside, in the blackness of space, enemies were drawing near, and soon. The fragile piece she had found would be tested by fire. The enemy strikes. The alien mother woke. To the sound of alarms, a deep siren echoed through the human ship, shaking the air. Red lights flashed across the walls. Machines beeped faster, and the calm hum of the engines now roared like thunder. Her son stirred in her arms, frightened. His small hands clutched her clothes as he whispered, "Mama." His voice was trembling. She hugged him close, whispering soft words, though her own heart was pounding. The door slid open, and the soldier rushed in. His face was uncovered, but this time his eyes were sharp, focused. His armor clanked as he moved quickly, a weapon now strapped to his chest. He looked at her and the boy, pointing toward the wall where a hidden door opened, revealing a smaller chamber. The soldier's voice was urgent. He repeated one word again and again, pointing at the room. She did not know his language, but she understood. Hide. The mother hesitated, fear tearing at her. Was this another trick? Were they locking her and her child away to abandon them? But then the ship shook violently, throwing her to her knees. Her son screamed, and metal groaned all around them. Through the shaking, she heard explosions outside. The raiders had come. Her blood froze. Memories of fire and death filled her mind. Night. Her village burned, the sound of her people screaming. The last sight of her husband fighting until the end. And now, the same monsters were here again. The soldier shouted, pointing at the chamber once more. His face tightened, but his eyes softened when he looked at the boy. He placed a hand on his chest, then on the child's, as if to promise, "You will be safe." The mother's throat tightened. For the first time, she wanted to believe him. She nodded. Clutching her son tightly, she stumbled into the chamber. The door sliding shut behind her. Inside, the walls glowed faintly. She could hear the muffled sounds of battle-distant booms, rattling walls, the shouts of humans outside. Her son pressed against her. Trembling, she stroked his hair, whispering, "Do not be afraid. I will protect you." Though inside she feared she could not. The ship shook harder. She felt the floor tilt. The boy began to cry softly. "Mama, I don't want to go back to the bad men." His words stabbed her heart. She kissed his forehead and held him closer. Suddenly, the door burst open. Not from the soldier, but from force. Sparks rained as metal bent. A shadow filled the frame tall. Armored, a raider. His mask glowed red, his weapon raised. The mother's breath caught in her throat. Her body screamed to run. But there was nowhere to go. She shielded her son with her arms, whispering, "Close your eyes." The raider stepped inside. His growl echoing through his helmet. He reached for her child. His claws stretched forward. Before he could touch them, a blast shook the chamber. The soldier appeared, weapon blazing. A flash of light struck the raider's chest, throwing him backward into the wall. Smoke filled the air. The raider's body slumped. Motionless, the mother gasped, staring. The soldier moved quickly, grabbing her arm and pulling her to her feet. He shouted again, pointing toward the hall. She held her son tighter and followed. The corridors were chaos. Humans in armor rushed past, firing weapons that lit the walls with blue and white bursts. The ship trembled with every hit from the raiders outside. The mother's ears rang with noise, her eyes wide in terror. As they ran, the soldier turned to fire again, protecting their path. The mother saw other raiders forcing their way inside, their armor black and jagged, their eyes glowing red. They looked like demons of war. One raider raised a weapon toward her. She froze, ready to die. But another human soldier stepped in front of her. Taking the hit across his armor, he fell, smoke rising. Yet even as he collapsed, his weapon fired one last time, striking the raider down. The mother's heart pounded. She could not understand why would these humans risk their lives for her and her son. They owed her nothing, and yet here they stood, bleeding, fighting, dying. The soldier pulled her into another chamber, larger, filled with flashing screens. It was the control room. The humans inside worked frantically, their voices sharp. The ship's walls rattled again as another blast struck. The soldier barked orders, pointing at the stars outside the viewing screen. Ships swarmed like vultures in the dark sky. The raiders' fleet. The mother clutched her son, her legs weak. She felt the end pressing closer. If the raiders won, they would take her child. They would burn everything again. The soldier looked at her, his jaw tight. His eyes burned with determination. He pointed once more at her son, then at the stars. His lips moved with words she did not understand, but his meaning was clear. We will fight for him. The ship roared as its cannons fired. Lights lit up the void. Explosions rippled across the raider ships. The battle had truly begun. The mother held her child tighter, her heart trembling with fear and awe for the first time. She understood something her people had never believed. Humans were not monsters. They were shields. A new beginning. The battle raged outside, shaking the human ship like a storm at sea. Explosions flashed across the black sky, filling it with fire. The alien mother held her son tightly, whispering words of comfort, though fear gripped her own heart. The soldier stood near the viewing screen, his weapon ready. His face was tense, but his eyes remained calm. He barked orders in his language. pointing at enemy ships that swarmed like hungry wolves. The humans worked together, their hands moving quickly across glowing panels. The mother had never seen such unity. Every human seemed willing to risk everything, not for riches or power, but to protect their ship. Their people, hand her child, another. Explosion shook the floor, throwing her to her knees. Her son whimpered, clutching the glowing ball still in his small hands. The soldier rushed to her side, helping her stand. His hand rested briefly on her arm, steady and firm. Then he returned to his post. Firing through the ship's defense system, through the screen, she saw a raider vessel explode in a burst of fire. The humans cheered, but their victory was short. More raiders pressed in, their numbers too many. The mother's chest tightened. She whispered, "It will never end. They will come again and again." Her fear clawed at her, whispering that no one could truly save them. Then she looked at her son, his small face turned toward the soldier. His eyes wide but shining. He was not crying now. He was watching, learning, and then, to her shock, he smiled again. That smile cut through her fear like sunlight. It was fragile, yes, but it was real. The battle grew fiercer. One raider ship broke through, slamming against the side of the human vessel. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the corridor as enemy soldiers stormed inside. The mother panicked, pressing her son against her chest. The soldier turned sharply, shouting, leading his team into the fight. Gunfire and flashes of light filled the control room. One raider charged toward her. Weapon raised, the mother froze, terror choking her. But then, in that instant, something inside her changed. She was no longer only a victim. She would not let her son be taken again. With trembling hands, she grabbed a fallen metal rod from the floor as the raider lunged. She swung with all the strength left in her body. The strike hit his head, stunning him. The soldier finished the job, blasting him down. The soldier glanced at her, surprise in his eyes. Then, slowly, he nodded with respect. The humans pushed harder, their weapons striking true. One by one, the raiders fell. The mother clutched her son, her chest heaving. Her arms shook, but her heart burned with new fire. Minutes stretched like hours, but finally, the last raider ship exploded outside. The sky fell silent except for drifting smoke and fire. The human crew erupted in cheers, relief flooding their faces. The soldier lowered his weapon, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He turned toward the mother, his eyes soft again. He walked slowly, crouching before her and her son, his hand pressed against his chest. The same gesture as before. This time she understood it fully. It was not just a promise of safety, it was a vow. The mother's throat tightened. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered in her language, though she knew he could not understand, "You saved us. You gave us life again." Her son looked up at the soldier and held out the glowing ball. The soldier smiled faintly, taking it, rolling it gently back to the boy. The child laughed, pure and bright, filling the room with a sound stronger than any weapon. The mother closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sound wash over her. Her heart finally believed what her mind had denied. These humans were not monsters. They were protectors, and perhaps more than that. They were friends. Later, as the ship drifted into calm space, the healer woman returned. Checking the boy's health, she gave him another small toy and a blanket. Her hands were gentle, her smile warm. The mother whispered softly to her son, "We were at death's door, but look, humanity came and they opened it for us. They gave us a future." The boy, already drifting into peaceful sleep, clutched the blanket and the glowing ball close to his chest. His lips curved into another small smile. The mother looked out the viewing screen at the endless stars for the first time since her world had burned. She did not see darkness. She saw a possibility, a new beginning,